9:33 exactly. Welcome back. We now will be talking with Dr. Dick Forslund. He's a social activist and an economist. And we're going to be looking at the story around the company Shell, the oil company Shell's offshore oil and gas um, exploration prohibited by a South African court. So I should imagine this judgment is a huge victory for campaigners concerned about the effect of seismic waves on marine life. Dr. Forslund, a very good morning to you. Welcome to the program. And as a social activist, you must be celebrating this judgment. Or is it a little too early to celebrate? Because perhaps, just perhaps, the petroleum company Shell might, take the matter further. They might appeal the judgment.
Yeah, no, we are celebrating here on the coast.
Okay.
We are, and I know my wife is also celebrating as a member of the Amadiba community, which was a part of this litigation.
Wow. Okay.
Um, and yeah, I think Shell Petroleum will appeal the judgment, but we will see because it has implications for them in the future too. But I mean, in a way, when we are speaking to the lawyers in this case, the lawyers of the fishing communities and Amadiba Coast and others, it's not a particularly radical decision, really. I mean, they had broken the law. And the core of the judgment is that there was no consultation, no effort to consult whatsoever with the fishing and agricultural communities along the south coast or along the wild coast of South Africa. So that is how the whole court case fell for them. It was impossible for them to win. They had done nothing. I mean, if you put in advertisement in Afrikaans, in English, in newspapers in Port Elizabeth and East London, and then you call it consultation, it was ridiculous. And I mean, they also had a certain Richard Stevenson, who had been speaking to kings and monarchs in Eastern Cape. But the judgment made clear that this is not the monarchy. South Africa is the constitutional democracy, and they have to speak about the people concerned. So that was the core of the judgment. Then they spoke about climate change. They spoke about that there was no proof what kind of jobs or economic benefits that this would provide to the country and so on. But the core was the issue that they didn't speak to the affected community at all. And the judgment only, I think it only appears as so radical because it's against a big multinational company. And also it was radical in the sense that it went 180 degrees against the will of Gwede Mantashe, the minister in question, and the government's policy of continuing to explore for oil and gas, where they are
Wasn't
not.
he, Dr. Forsland, wasn't he the same minister who was touting for the Turkish car power ships off our coast to provide electricity?
Yeah, absolutely. The same
He's
minister,
not.
yes.
So he's
Yeah.
not thinking about the environment and climate change. I think he's just thinking about possibly the big cuts, the money that they would derive out of all of these tenders. Having said that, that is a separate issue. Let's just understand for people who are listening to this type of interview for the first time, how damaging or degrading would this activity, had it been allowed to go ahead, had the judgment worked in Shell Petroleum's favor, how damaging would it have been for the environment, the affected environments, and the fish life, the marine life, not only in that community? I should imagine it would be very, very far reaching.
Well, I mean the seismic blasting or the seismic blasting with air cannon that they wanted to do. It is a project over 3-4 months, and it pertains to having air guns sending blasts down to the bottom of the sea every 10 seconds, up to the sound of a jet fighter starting, up to 220 decibel. And it has been a scientific debate about this will, as a layperson, of course, you must assume that this will chase away the fish. But marine biologists who were speaking in sort of as expert on the behalf of the community, they speak even on the effect of plankton or the smallest creatures in the sea from such an intervention. Then again, Shell say that they've been doing this in many places, many times, and nobody have been able to prove that this have any damaging effect in the long run or in the middle run. But what the court said about this, and what the advocates, Ukai Tobi and others, emphasized in court, and it's a very interesting court discussion for those who have internet and have the time to listen to the presentations, is that there is a cautionary principle in the legislation of South Africa. So if you are not sure if you will create a huge damage to the environment or marine life, and if kind of the effects that there's no concluding evidence, there's a debate, then the minister in question, he has to sort of take a decision on the side of caution. It is in the law, and it is now also in the judgment. So if I mean, when there was a temporary interdict against the same project in December, at that time the communities had 10 marine biologists and scientists on their side, and Shell Petroleum and the Department of Energy, they had none who could speak to them. Nobody wanted to step forward. So the cautionary principle applies, and that is what the minister should have been deciding about, but he didn't, and that is what the court said. Then you have another contentious issue also, and that is about the religious and cultural rights of the community. These communities, they have the firm beliefs that ancestors who have perished in the sea, they are resting in the sea. And if you if you do such a project, you will disturb these ancestors, and you will break the connection between the ancestors and the communities. And what the lawyers argue in court, you can share this belief or not, but it shows that you have to have it if you are going to go ahead with such a huge project, which must interfere with what is happening in the ocean in a big way. Yeah, then you have to speak to the communities and speak to, so what shall we do now? We want to do this, but how shall we kind of mitigate such effects? But I know as for the Amadiba community, they will not accept any gas and oil exploration, and that is also because of climate change, which they already feel the effects of when it comes to sort of torrent rains and droughts and so on. It affects the agriculture. So they are also they are speaking about it at the meeting at Komkulu, the great place of Amadiba. They spoke about it as a victory for the planet also. It's not only a victory for us, people said.
On the other hand, Dr. Forslund, obviously, Shell Petroleum is an international mega company, and when they undertake these type of explorations, it's just to grow their company and their bottom line bigger and bigger, and to generate more profits, and also to pay, give their shareholders big returns. Um,
Yeah.
are we big enough? Are these communities, these fisher folk communities, big enough to go up against Shell should they appeal this decision, suggesting perhaps the amount of maybe employment they're going to create, um, they're answerable to their shareholders. They're looking at the future of gas and oil supply, not only for South Africa, but it will bring foreign currency into the country if they strike oil and huge oil and gas reserves with this particular project of theirs. That could be their argument going forward.
Well, yeah, that's a very good point. But I mean, that is maybe also why many of us are so energized by this judgment, because at least in legal theory, it could be if it's a very important question and then in sort of a question about the future and it has big repercussions, then even Miss Julie Ali could go to the Constitutional Court as a single person, no matter who is on the other side, and win the court case if the constitution of the country and if the laws, which are the environmental laws and other laws, says so. So now we know that this is legal theory, and we don't know. We often see that this doesn't happen really in real life because you are going against the powerful and the mighty. And I think the answer to that maybe is to is solidarity and to sort of connect to the climate crisis movement internationally. And I think that this judgment has had such repercussions internationally. I mean, at least they speak about it in the Netherlands, I'm sure, because that is the home country of Shell
Of
Petroleum.
Shell. Hmm.
Yeah, and the shares of Shell, I think it was Professor Patrick Bond who sent me the diagrams of the London Stock Exchange. The Shell of shares fell with close to 2% after the judgment, and the shares of the Impact Africa, which was the South African company involved in this, the partner of Shell, their shares fell with 5%.
Yeah.
And interestingly, there's a Mr. Jocelyn Coppelin here who is involved in this, and I mean he comes from the trade union movement, but now he's becoming a big oil and gas explorer. He's active in Africa and so on. So I think he was also
Okay.
crying, but I think that he could good, yeah, it was good for him. I think to get this defeat in court.
Okay, that's where we leave it. A very interesting matter. Undoubtedly, we're going to keep our eye on this and we'll talk again. I have no doubt in my mind that Shell Petroleum will be appealing this judgment, so we will follow it very, very closely. Thank you, as always, for your time and your deep insights into all of these issues. Till the next time, as always, go well. God bless.
Yeah, good luck today.
Thank you. It is a 9:46 exactly. Standing by are my two colleagues, Miriam Makwanda and Johara Hassam, to talk to us about the amazing event that took place yesterday. Compliments of Salam Media Management, obviously, and I thoroughly, thoroughly, thoroughly enjoyed it. So let's go for an ad break, and we'll be back in a minute or two to talk to these two gorgeous young ladies.